Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, and this is becoming a bit of a tradition on this channel. Last year, I predicted Colorado's schedule. I was very flustered by the hype they were receiving from the media, from fans, from the world, because they beat an overrated TCU team, and then they beat a Nebraska team at home. And I made this video, as you can see, 11 months ago, calling them overrated, talking about their team in depth. And we're not going to do that today, but what I did on that video was I went through the rest of their schedule and I predicted what I thought would be the result of their season. I said their ceiling was 8-4, their probably baseline was 6-6, and their floor was 4-8. And I went through and again, I picked out each individual game about what I thought would happen. And this received a ton of hate. I was being called a hater. I was being called all sorts of things. You don't believe. You don't believe. No, I didn't believe. And look what actually happened. Okay, my predictions were 8-0-2. Two of the games I did not pick. I said Stanford and Arizona could both go either way, and what happened? They ended up losing to Stanford by 3 in double overtime, and they lost to Arizona by 3. So I would say I was spot on. Okay, I called their wins exactly right. I called all their losses exactly right. And the ones I wasn't sure about, they happened to lose, and they lost them by, a possession. So I called their schedule perfectly. And my friends were texting me last night after they won saying, are you going to do it again? Do you believe now? That kind of thing. And I'm like, guys, fine. Let's do it. Let's talk about it. So this is their schedule for this year. They moved from the Pac-12, where they were last year, into the Big 12. So they have a whole host of new opponents and, in my opinion, tougher opponents. A lot of people have looked at this schedule, and I think the market is, again, they're overreacting to this team and the hype that they get. We're going to go through each of these games, and we're going to talk about it. But we'll talk about what Vegas says first. Vegas says right now, their win total on the year is set at under 5.5 wins. But the over is being favored here on DraftKings -150 and on FanDuel -122. They are saying that Colorado has a 57% chance to win 6 or more games this season. And when I look at that schedule, guys, I do not see that. So I'm going to walk you through their entire schedule real quick here. Last night, we saw them play an FCS opponent, okay, not even an FBS opponent, an FCS opponent, a inferior opponent at home. Their season opener, the crowd is packed. It's a sold-out stadium. The kids are all probably intoxicated, ready to go. They're favored by 10.5, and they were a penalty, a pass interference penalty away from giving this game up. And then they decided on first down to throw a Hail Mary instead of running the clock out. Like, just bizarre stuff. Like this, the issues with Colorado, I believe, are deep-rooted. Okay. Yes, Shedeur can play. Yes, Travis Hunter is a phenomenal athlete. Okay. Yes, Deion Sanders has done great for the Colorado community, the university, right? I talked about this all last year. I am not hating on these guys as humans. I am just setting an expectation for what I believe are levels to the football world. And I think that they generate a lot more hype on themselves than they actually deserve in terms of football. So last night, yes, their offense looked fire. It looked great against North Dakota State. Congratulations, right? Shedeur threw for 440 yards. But what did they do on the ground? Nearly nothing. Okay, and I think that's going to be a problem for them. Their defense was horrible. North Dakota State, guys, put up 26 points and probably should have been more, okay? This team is one-dimensional. All they do is pass, and you're going to say, well, they pass well. I mean, this is going to be potentially the best quarterback in the NCAA. Okay, yeah, because he's going to have all the opportunities to be the best quarterback, and they're going to be down in a lot of games, okay? So let's talk about their next game. It's Nebraska. They're going to go into Nebraska 1-0. I give Colorado the large edge in offense, actually. I think they should be a substantial threat in terms of their offense versus what Nebraska is going to bring them. But the problem is the defense. Nebraska is going to be able to neutralize Colorado's defense, and even though Nebraska's offense is not very good, I think they're going to be able to put points up because Colorado's defense, again, is so bad. So I'm going to give a slight edge overall to Nebraska, and I think Nebraska should win this game by 7, given that they're hosting it and it's a night game. This crowd is going to be on fire. It's going to be a tough environment. So they go into their second game 1-1. They play Colorado State. I'll give the offensive edge to Colorado Buffaloes by a large margin, but I think their defenses are awash. This should be a shootout. This should be points after points after points. but I'll give a solid edge to the Colorado Buffaloes. And I think, they should win by 10, even if, they're on the road. And this, again, is another night game. So they'll go into their fourth game, 2-1. That looks pretty good, right? We're on pace to cover our 6, but they're playing Baylor, who has an edge in every category. It's only slight edge on offense, solid edge on defense, solid edge overall. I think this game is actually more of a 60-40. Okay, I give the edge to Baylor, but I can see Colorado squeaking this one out. And for that reason, I've left it as kind of that caution, that little yellow. I'm not sure. We'll come back to that in a second. Then they travel to UCF. Guys, I don't think this one will be close. I don't think we need to discuss it. They have a large edge overall, and I think they lose. Colorado loses by 17 in this one. They then go into their bye. They're 2-1. That's my prediction, and I think that's fine. Okay, I think they'll rally the troops. You'll hear some quotables, some tidbits. What's the word I'm looking for? When people have the little, Deion Sanders is going to say some stuff, and people are going to repeat it and share it on Twitter. Is what I'm trying to say. Okay, they come off their bye 2-1. They play Kansas State. I believe Kansas State is actually underrated in this market, and I think, even though they're 18th right now, they will be top 10 by the time this game happens in October, and I give them a large edge in every single category. Even though Kansas State has to play in Colorado, I don't think this one will be particularly close either. They'll go into the Arizona game 2-3-1. Again, another problem here. I think Arizona may be slightly overrated in this market. I think Kansas State is noticeably better than Arizona, but I still think Arizona is noticeably better than Colorado. I think Arizona should win this by double digits. They go into Cincinnati game 2-4-1, but they are hosting Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's probably one of the weaker opponents they face this year. I'll give this solid edge to Colorado. The defense, a large edge to Cincinnati. I think overall it's a wash. I think this is going to be a very close game, a very competitive game, and because of that, I'm going to give them the benefit of a doubt here, and even though I think this is a 50-50 game, I'm going to give Colorado the win. They go to Texas Tech 3-4-1. Texas Tech has a solid, if not large, edge in all of these categories. I think they win by double digits. They go into Utah, or they host Utah rather, 3-5-1. I think offensively it's a wash. I think both of these teams can do similar things on offense, but again, it comes down to that defense. A large edge for Utah. Solid edge overall. I think Utah can squeak this one out by about a touchdown or a 6-point win. Okay. And one thing I want to mention before we move forward here, a lot of this has to do with the one dimensionality of the Colorado Buffaloes. All teams are going to have to do is come in and say, hey, we need to stop Shedeur Sanders, because they're not going to run on us. Their offensive line is not strong enough to just pound the ball over and over, okay? I mean, they had like 500 yards of offense, and I don't know if if a single running back had over 50 yards last night, okay? So they just are not balanced. And when you are tipping your hand that much, and people know that, it's easy to come in and shut that aspect of your game down, and I think that's what will happen. Kansas, small edge offensively and defensively, overall solid edge. Again, Kansas similar to Arizona in that I think they might be overrated in the market a little bit, but I give them the edge, Kansas by 6. Their last game of the season is Oklahoma State, and they come into it 3-7 and question mark, depending on what happens with Baylor. But again, Oklahoma State, I give the solid edge to Oklahoma State in every category, and I think they should win by double digits. So here is their whole schedule. Okay, I think they should win against Colorado State. I think they should win against Cincinnati, and I think they have a chance to win against Baylor. Every other game I see a loss. So if they beat Baylor, I'll give them 4-8. So do I think they have a 57% chance to win 2 additional games? No. And for that reason, I love the under. 5.5 wins at plus 125. This is something we saw last year. Okay, their win last night helps. All right, it helps people believe. It helps people fall into this narrative that they are, once again, a contender for something, right? But I think the attention that they bring on themselves is going to be a curse. I think while Shedeur and Travis Hunter can play at a very high level, they don't have people around them that match that level. And if you can shut down those two guys, which is obviously harder, easier said than done, advantage the other team. So, yes, Jimmy Horn can play too. He had like 200 yards receiving last night, touchdown. So I just believe that we are seeing the same thing we saw last year, okay? And this doesn't even take into consideration injuries, right? Obviously, the teams they're playing could be injured, and that could hurt us, but I think that if Shedeur goes down, this team's not winning another game, right? And I obviously don't wish that upon anybody, but these are factors you have to consider. And at plus 125, I like our chances. Okay, so there you guys go. Okay, I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to be a doubter. I'm just trying to give you guys information from a football perspective. Okay, and I could fully be wrong, and they could squeak out 6 wins, and I'll eat my hat, eat my cowboy hat. And why don't I just eat my shades as well? That's all I got for you today. If you want to do some stuff, do it. Okay, I got links down below. If you want to check them out, you can. You can help me get some money in my pocket, and you can watch my other videos. And we will see you next week. Big week. NFL starts. I'm going to have a ton of content out. Stay tuned.